Burgundy in 1444 starts out as one of the more fun nations to play as. We have a very unique mission tree that includes some missions that you don't see in any other mission pack, such as the King of the Franks, which allows us to transfer all the French subjects and make them our subjects with a simple click of a button. And also, as we progress in the campaign, we can annex all of our subjects without integrating them with another click of a button. You'll see what I'm talking about as we progress in the campaign. Before we do anything else, we need to do our very first mission here, which requires that we have 0 liberty desire with all of our subjects. It's very easy to do. We just support loyalists for all 3 of our personal union members, and that way we can do the very first mission that allows us claim on the Lorraine area. Once that's done, we can stop supporting loyalists. We don't need this anymore, and we're going to give out the Strong Duchies privilege, which gives 2 extra diplomatic relations slots and lowers the liberty desire in subjects by 10%. So technically you don't even need to support loyalists. Both end up with the same results. We also want to do the English alliance. Now historically, Burgundy and England actually fought side by side against the French crown, with the Burgundians being the ones that actually captured Joan of Arc, which led to her eventual demise at the hands of the English scum. And whilst we could easily get an alliance with the English ourselves, we're not going to do that because we want to eventually get the English realms for ourselves, namely the English provinces in the mainland. So we're going to be rivaling France, we're going to be rivaling the English as well, and as our third rival, we're going to go to Provence, because once again, we'll be attacking Provence too within just the first few decades of the campaign. I also prefer to delete the fortification in Picardy as well as the one in Auxerrois, because both of these are farmland or grassland forts, which means that they're very easy to capture, and we're going to maintain the forts in Namur, Luxembourg, and Franche-Comté, which are either hills or woodland forts, which have -1 dice roll for attackers, so we do have a little bit of an actual defensive bonus when fighting in these provinces. One more thing we're going to do is seize lands from Nevers. The reason for that is because we can release from the province of Retalois the nation of Champagne, and with them we can reconquer a vast area to the northern parts of France, 4 provinces, all of which are really high development provinces with little to no aggressive expansion. This will of course piss off Nevers and they will be a little bit disloyal, but we can get them back to loyalty by just improving relations or by developing their province. Every time you develop a province of your subject, it lowers their liberty desire by 5%, as well as you can just placate the ruler at the cost of 20 prestige, which lowers their liberty desire by 10%. I'm also going to go for the Improved Relations Advisor as my diplomatic advisor, because in order to get the vassals transferred from the French, the first step is going to be to do the League of the Public Weal, for which we need to have the French vassals get 100 relations with us. Getting that particular advisor is going to speed up the process of improving relations with the French subjects. The other advisors, morale of armies or discipline, would be perfect. For some reason, we have a lot of stability cost modifier advisors, so let's just get the cheap one, 50% cheaper. Plus, we add on to that the fact that we have well-connected trade from Philippe, which means all of our advisors are 20% cheaper, and we're going to afterwards give out the 15% advisor cost reduction privilege for all 3 of the estates as well, so we end up paying little to nothing for all of our advisors. I also like to split up my fleet into individual ships, and then I'm going to be selling off my prized heavy ships to my subjects. That way we get 50 ducats and we just keep the ships, because technically we're not selling to an enemy, right? Our subjects will still use these ships in the wars to come, and we end up making some money off of this. Remember, you can sell 1 ship per day, so you do this within the first month as you progress and as you get your diplomats back. We also can go for 1 stability as we start with above 100 admin points, so we can afford that. And let's make sure to insult the English as well as insult the French. There we go. That means we can do the English alliance. So now we can just improve with the French subjects to do the next mission, the League of the Public Weal. Alliance-wise, we could probably get some allies within Aragon and Austria. Usually both of these nations absolutely love us. Sometimes Denmark is also a good friend, and even Scotland. But your best bet, of course, should always be Austria. Austria is a really reliable ally, especially when fighting against France. Aragon, not so much. It's a little bit RNG, but still a good alliance to get, as long as they don't become a junior partner of Castile within the first 20 years or so. You can actually make quite good use of them. Now we're up to 7 out of 9 Diplo relation slots, so we can get 2 more Diplo relation slots. When it comes to the privileges, we're going to give out religious diplomat, which will help us get more relations with the French subjects as well. Increase levy so we get more manpower. Supremacy over the crown so we increase our equilibrium for loyalty. Patronage of the arts, which will help us out with getting a little bit more prestige, which in turn means we get stronger armies, more trade power, etc, etc, as well as the national tax modifier privilege and the economic freedom for the burghers. Now, you probably noticed I didn't give the +1 mana privilege from the get-go. Why is that? Well, because reality is we're going to have a lot of subjects and all of them are going to be, or majority of them are going to be vassals. That is going to cause some massive issues if we have the crownland debuffs early on, and we're primarily going to be feeding back subject lands instead of directly taking too much lands for ourselves at the early phase of the campaign. We're not going to be getting too much crownlands from expansion itself. In case you're wondering how come I've got 31.1 crownlands, that's because we seized that one province in Retelois, and we had really low influence when we did so. Which leads me to my next thing. I am going to give some mana privileges, but I'm not going to give all of them. I'm going to give the +1 diplomatic power because Charles does not have any diplomatic skill, and I'm going to give the primacy of the nobility for the military +1 privilege. Then we're going to summon the diet, seize the crownlands, and go for whichever agenda best suits us. Once we get above 20-something%, we're going to give the last privilege, the religious state one. Until then, we're going to give clerical advisory council, aristocratic council, and of course, commercial advisory council. There's a distinct lack of privileges for the clergy, as you probably noticed, so we can make up for that by giving the clerical education, and that's it when it comes to the privileges at the start of the campaign. Now, Burgundy does start with 10% army professionalism, so we're going to be slackening recruitment until we basically reach our max manpower. We're doing that because we're going to be relying on mercenaries a lot in this particular run, and if we recruit mercenaries now, it will lower our army professionalism, so we might as well use it before we just lose it. And as a side note, Philip is actually a really good general with 3 shock, 1 siege, but make sure you really want to use him because there's a chance he's going to die if you use him as a general, so keep that in mind. I do like to keep one of my diplomats improving relations with the various French subjects, and the other one we're going to use to keep on selling ships around the northern parts. Some nations might give you more, some nations might give you less. It's a good idea to just cycle through everyone. Look at this, we can get 40 compared to the 20 from selling our ship to Bremen. We made a good 200 or so ducats from selling our ships. We're going to keep the light ships for now though. Also, something very important that has changed with the more recent patches, and one of the reasons I'm redoing this campaign in general, is that there are some new mechanics for the appenages that have been added. For example, they can attack each other and they can rival one another. We're going to be improving relations with 3 appenages for this mission. We're going to choose Orléans, Bourbonnais, and Auvergne. Why these 3? Because all 3 have rivaled Armagnac. So if we scornfully insult Armagnac, we automatically get an extra 25 relations with all 3 of these. So we just need to improve a little bit more to get the mission done. We can basically do the League of the Public wheel 5 times faster than we could in the previous patches because of this newly added flavor. That's also why you can literally annex all of the French region with that one click, significantly faster than in previous patches now. Before we continue with the campaign, it's pretty important to know that the way the Burgundian inheritance works is that it's tied to the actual heir, Charles de Bourgogne. We literally cannot disinherit Charles due to historical reasons, because otherwise the entire mechanic does not work if Charles does not become the king of our nation and then dies as the king of our nation. Historically, what happened was Charles the Bourgogne, or Charles the Bold, because he had big balls of steel, died on the 5th of January 1477 during the Battle of Nancy, when the good King René, the leader of, in our game, the nation of Provence, attacked Charles's garrison and managed to basically crush more than half of the Burgundian forces. Charles himself was struck down by a halberd, and it literally split his head up in half. His body was found with his head frozen, well, half the head frozen, in a river. I don't remember the name of the river now, but it took a few days for people to even identify him. They identified him through like an ingrown toenail and all that, and a missing tooth and whatever else. And then René did give him full burial honors, of course, as was custom at the time. Honestly, a very sad story. Charles could have really changed history. We would have probably seen a much bigger third nation between Germany and France if Charles hadn't died the way he did without an actual proper heir to lead the reins of the Burgundian nation, which technically wasn't much of a nation, but it was a collection of holdings within both the Kingdom of France and the Holy Roman Empire. Oh, the French just canceled the alliance with Provence. That is actually perfect. Let's go ahead and attack Provence whilst we wait for the French and the English to start their particular war. Set by Ra as the war target, and let's quickly attack. We can also ask our subjects to siege down the enemy targets so we make this war a little bit faster. We do have to chase down the Provençal troops so that they don't become a little bit of a nuisance later down the line. I only need to get a little bit of war score, not too much, since I'm only taking the 4, or actually only 2 provinces from Provence. We're going to take all the money that we can from them, trade power, war reparations, and we're going to cancel some rivals to get a little bit of extra prestige. We really want that prestige as high up as possible, also for the aggressive expansion impact that it offers. And when it comes to Provence itself, we're going to humiliate them, take all their money, and take the 2 provinces to connect our Dutch and Burgundian holds, as well as a little bit of war reparations. There we go. Perfect. Now we can come back and just wait for the English and French war to start. Plus, best part, we barely got any aggressive expansion from this, and we also merged our realms. So that's the best part. The humiliation especially was really good, since now we get extra splendor per month because of having 1 more of our age objectives fulfilled. All right, we got cores on both Verdun and Barra, and we can also do the League of the Public Weal. I'm just kind of waiting for the English and the French to start the war. That's going to be an amazing moment for me to click this mission to just screw over the French big time. Bro, are you kidding me right now? They're not going to go to war? Well, that is basically the worst case scenario, because now we have to take on both a full strength France and a full strength England. That's unfortunate. I mean, I guess that does happen, so let's go with the mission League of the Public Weal. That way every single one of France's subjects is now very much so disloyal. What that means is that they will not help the French units. They will stay within their realms, and they will not aid the main French armies, which means we only need to fight 25,000 units. So that's actually doable. I'm going to make sure all of my units attached to my main army, and we're going to have them all set to supportive. We're going to attack with the Reconquest of Core for Champagne. Reims is going to be the war target, and we're not going to call in any of our allies because they don't want to help us. But not to worry, we don't need to fight the entirety of France, just the actual French troops, because their vassals will not help out. So as long as we do not step in any of their vassals' provinces, we should be golden. In fact, avoid stepping in their provinces and wipe out the French units. If the French lose a lot of soldiers, that's going to make their subjects even more disloyal, and vice versa. If the subjects lose more soldiers, then they're going to become more loyal. Let's go with our initial battle here. Make sure we win some battles, get some war score. There you go. Beautiful. We wiped out quite a few of the French units there. Go back into the north, continue our sieges. Because we started with an amazing 555 leader, we also are going to be the first ones to get admin, diplo, and military tech. Well, admin not so much, because we used a lot of it for our stability at the start of the campaign, so I guess maybe we shouldn't have done that. French army's down to 17,000. We wiped out quite a few of them. Genoese are down to 10,000. Problem is, Genoese are actually doing pretty good. I'm a little bit surprised by how well they're behaving themselves in this war. Kind of expecting to just walk over the Genoese units, to be fair. There you go. That's another 7,000 that just bit the dust. And look at that. Their subjects are very much so disloyal. So we basically have already won the war. They're down to 6,000 units. There is no way they can recover from this. Now we just got to make sure we siege down the fortifications they have in the north and the other 2 castles in Huat-Poitou and Lyonnais before they properly recover their strength. Oh, is it Sac of Chartres? Let's go on and siege Huat-Poitou next. Okay, that literally is a massive blow to France. Let's see how are they back to 12,000? That's the real question. They had like 8,000 at one point. But honestly, just taking out like 2,000 units here and there, that is literally the way to win this war. Let's check the deaths so far. We basically lost 53,000, but we managed to murder 88,000 of their units by simply wiping out like 2,000-3,000 here and there. Look at all these little battles we had. That's literally the way to do it. Genoa also lost a lot of units against us, so kind of surprised if they're not going to be willing to piece us out. They're close to it. They're actually very close to it. If we just start sieging down their capital, for sure they're going to give us a white piece. All right, and this should be the very last of the French units. They are indeed the very last. Now, if we manage to chase these guys down and wipe them out again, no more resistance from France. This time I mean it as well, okay? Be honest, the French did survive a lot longer than I expected them to, which goes to show the more recent patches, the French have received some big bonuses. If you haven't also seen my French campaign, I have one going on. I've got a couple of videos in that campaign already out. You can check the link in the description and let me know what you think about the campaign. I'm actually curious. GG's, France. Can we get an F in the chat? How do you still have 6,000? Bro, they're recruiting like crazy. Are these mercenaries? They have to be They're not mercenaries. What the schnitzel, France? How? These are the actual last 2,000 units of the French. There you go. 0 manpower, 0 soldiers. Please stop recruiting units, you scumbag Frenchmen. Just die with some freaking grace and let me just take your lands. Oh, and of course, now Aragon would like to join after we did all the freaking heavy lifting. You are not coming into this war, Aragon. Yay, we got a saint proclaimed. I'm gonna proclaim him Saint Skibbity von Baguette. Skibbity von Baguette. Oh, that is not good. That is really, really not good. All right, let's see if now we have the war score that we need. So we need 6 provinces. I'm gonna take the northern ones. And, well, actually, maybe I'll take Basse-Poitou and Saint-Onger, so that way we have access to Brittany as well right afterwards, and we have an easier time in the next war against the British, or the English, better yet. Not take any money, apparently. Nope, not even a single cent. Well, you know what? That's fine. That actually works for me. We can also seize more crownlands now, so we're back up to 23% crownlands, and more importantly, we can do this particular mission as soon as we finish coring up the province of Paris. And look at us, we have become the world's 5th great power. Oh, that's not good. We lost Philip already. Charles is in charge. That is really not good. Whenever Charles dies, we get the Burgundian inheritance. But we don't want to get the Burgundian inheritance too soon, because we really want to take as many subjects as possible from the French and then some before the inheritance happens. Okay, let's get a general too, since Philip is gone. I'm gonna name him after one of my beloved patrons, and he's absolutely trash. 1-1. I'm so disappointed in you, Kado. I'm so disappointed. Now take note, guys, in order to take these 2 provinces in the war deal, you will need to have at least diplomatic tech 4, in case you're wondering, because I know some people will be like, how come you're able to take these 2 and I wasn't? It's because of the diplomatic tech. Okay, now everybody wants a piece of France since I've destroyed their army, apparently. It's like a French buffet, I guess you could say. Not to fear, France, I'm coming to the rescue since we've cored up Paris. With the click of a button, King of the Franks is back in town, baby. Not only do we get all of the French subjects as our subjects now, with the obvious exception of Foix, which broke away, but we also get permanent claims on the French realms. So whenever the truce is over, we have everything we need to just bubble up all of France. Why does Auvergne have La Marche and Oh, okay. So Auvergne declared war on Armagnac and got those provinces. But I love the fact that appanages can declare war on one another, but now they're not appanages anymore. They're regular vassals, so they cannot do that anymore. Also, make sure to get a royal marriage with them whenever you can, because that will lower their liberty desire by 5%. In fact, now we're pretty much okay with all of them. Nevers is still the odd one off, and they're still pretty pissed off at us. You know what? I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna placate them twice. There you go. Now they're back to super loyal, and we can use this massive vassal swarm to attack the English next. We can do the reconquest of La Bourde. Doesn't make much of a difference regardless, because we're going to be taking a little bit of extra unlawful demands in any case. The majority of the war score is going to come from sieging down Portugal, much like in a standard France run. Aside from the actual English possessions, the Portuguese are vital in securing the war score we need to actually take these possessions from the English. Oh, actually, we could call in a few allies in this one. Austria, Scotland, and Aragon. You know what? I'll call all 3 of them just so it's easier for me to piece out the English faster. My allies will probably focus on Portugal because none of them have an actual fleet to land in the English lands. But then again, the Scottish being in this could prove useful, and maybe I could land some units. Or it might have been the biggest mistake I made if it gives the English war score from taking Scottish lands. Oof, didn't think about that. We also can build a few churches, which is going to give us quite a lot of money actually, because we have really high base tax development. Hey, the last jousting tournament, that's gonna come in handy. Looks like Foix managed to get some provinces from France. They took Carcassonne and Narbonne, but is still an appanage of France. I am so confused right now. Wow, okay, so I could have still had them as a subject if I just waited before I press the button. I'm assuming appanages can declare war on the overlord but still remain appanages after. That is so weird. I did not know that. 10,000 hours in the game and I find something new, guys. Not gonna lie, I'm a little bit salty now because that's like 30 development we could have taken from Foix alone. Boy, did I call it. Colin in Scotland was a mistake. We're losing like 40 war score on the Scots getting occupied like this. I'm just being hopeful that the Scots will get pieced out by the English in a separate deal. Hey, I called it. They did piece out. Oh my God, Aragon. Dude, what is happening in this game? Now, they are my allies, so I'm going to curry favors because I can return one of my vassals' cores on Foix from the Aragonese, but the rest of this I'm going to have to take for myself, so that alliance is not going to last long. Okay, that's a little bit of a surprise. We got an heir. I don't really want an heir. Does that mean the inheritance still triggers? It should still trigger. I don't think this is going to make a difference. If it does, then I'm going to disinherit this guy because we need the inheritance to trigger. Thanks Schnitzeldorf for my allies, which managed to get military access through Castile. Now we can actually push in and get the war score that we need from the Portuguese. Oh, actually Foix is independent. I guess that was one of the conditions from the Aragonese. Well, that's good for me though, because that means we're going to be annexing them. Let's make sure we give Bern to the rightful owner, Armagnac. You really think about it, Armagnac's the real winner of this entire situation. They're getting Labourd, they're going to get Foix from the favors. They're just growing. And let's see what the end result's going to be here. Really hope I can take everything from the English. I can. All right, that's actually pretty good. Can we take the Pale as well? We cannot take the Pale, but we could if we waited for a little bit longer. I'm actually down for that, because then we can attack Clan Ricard afterwards and Ulster. Now what you guys are thinking, Ludi, you don't really need the Pale. Just go with what you have right now. But I'm a greedy son of a bitch, and there you go. We can take the Pale now, all the English provinces. Coalition-wise, it really is not that many. It's basically no one really. There we go. We have most of the French realms under our control now. We do have to core this up because we do not have cores on all of this. I'm actually going to give Bordeaux over to Armagnac, and I'll core up Alençon and Cotentin because I'm fairly certain that Armagnac can core this before I integrate them. And speaking of, let's also get the other core for them from our beloved Aragonese. Cancel the currying of favors because we're going to have to cancel that alliance now. And we're up to 28 crownland, so we can give out the +1 mana for the admin. We managed to get 100 relations with the Pope, so now we can do the fate of Joan of Arc. Now this is pretty ironic considering that us, the Burgundians, were the ones responsible for her death. We really should not have access to that particular decision, should we now? I've also decided that instead of attacking Clan Ricard, we can just diplomatically vassalize them, so when the Burgundian inheritance happens, we automatically integrate half of Ireland for free. Also, historically speaking, the Burgundians were on par with the French when it came to the amount of cannons that they used during the 100 Years' War. So it would be awesome if our mission tree also gave us cannons early on like they give the French. Alright, time for the next war. Attackius Maximus. One thing to be careful with, because we are at war with the Pope, is that they might excommunicate us. But what I did to prevent getting excommunicated is I bought indulgence, which in turn not only increases the relations with the Pope, but it also prevents them from excommunicating me for a few years. And we also can now get our next vassal, Clan Ricard, the greatest clan ever. I'm gonna placate these rulers, the clan and Nevers as well. And I'm gonna take another loan because I want to embrace Renaissance. So there you go, even one more. Boom. Now we got Renaissance. We can get military tech 6, and we can also give Renaissance to somebody else. In our case, that's going to be Bohemia, and we get 1.44 ducats every month. That's better than nothing, right? Hold on a second. I saw something interesting. Muscovite Succession War. Muscovy is a junior partner of Sweden, and Sweden's led by Anne Lancaster. What the hell is going on here, man? This is the most cursed thing I've seen in a really long time. I don't think I've ever seen Muscovy become a junior partner of the Swedes. We're also going to be improving relations with all of the fringe nations right next to us, because if we are to vassalize Brittany, it would be quite a bit of aggressive expansion, and having higher relations will prevent these nations from joining a coalition, as well as it will help us lower their aggressive expansion with us a little bit faster. Okay, we got the city of Rome. That's basically all the war score that we need from the Pope. Gonna get all the money that he's got. I'm gonna give Avignon back to Provence because I'm just such a nice guy, and because I also don't want the Pope to be close to me. And give me a little bit of war reps. That is all that I want. I don't want anything else except that, which is basically everything. Now that does mean we now can do the Papal Relations, ironically, mission. So we got the Papal Influence +1, and next we can do the Feast of Pheasants, where we get a Holy War CB on the Ottomans. But I'm gonna keep this for later. Once I've consolidated France, I can use the CB to start a crusade against the Ottoman Empire. So we've got all the war score that we need. Now we can make the Britons our subject, and it's not many nations in the coalition against us, simply because we've been improving relations with all of them. So let's check it out. The Britons will be extremely disloyal as expected. We're gonna have to improve relations with them for a really long time to make them actually loyal now. What I can also do is sell some titles, seize some crownlands, and that way we can pay off these loans that we've got here. And we got some extra money left around, so we can use that to build some barracks, get more manpower, build some more churches, get some more economy going, build some trade centers. Only one actually in Dijon is enough. As for our first idea, I'm gonna go for diplomatic ideas, which is gonna give me the extra 2 diplomats and the province war score cost reduction by 20%. I'm not going for influence because I'm gonna integrate every single one of these subjects with a single click of a button in a few moments, so I'm not worried about integrating anyone anytime soon. Also, check it out, we literally have 10 Diplo relation slots because of our first government reform, the Burgundian state, which offers an extra 2. And the unfortunate event has triggered Aragon as a junior partner of Castile, which just rivaled us. So that means we're going to have to fight the entirety of Iberia to get the 5 provinces from the south of France. Okay, my truce is over with the French. Time to attack them again. We can set Chartres as the war target since it's right next to us. And this should be fairly easy because they only have 9,000 units left. Now, whilst we are in this war, we're going to continue to improve relations with everybody in the HRE and just by the border with us. The extra diplomat we get from diplomatic ideas is 100% going to help out so much with improving relations even faster now. Justify my war. That's going to come in handy. Also going to start my golden era now because I really need the extra power cost reduction. It is a little bit earlier than I normally start my golden era, but it's going to be worth it. We're going to take half of France, the southern bits, just so they don't fall under control of Aragon, and the north we're going to directly annex after the Burgundian inheritance triggers. So there's going to be a lot of nations in a potential coalition here, I'm not going to lie. That basically means that we're going to have for a while to do nothing else except improve relations with nations and secure bigger alliances and make sure that nobody crushes us. We're going to also become a kingdom, so that's going to give us an extra diplomat. We're going to have 4 that we can use to improve relations. It also means we have more governing capacity now, so we can make more full states, which in turn means more economy and more units. Check out the potential coalition map mode. That is freaking brutal. We do still have quite a strong alliance net, but I feel like I do need to get some more allies. So maybe Hungary, Naples, even Denmark wouldn't be such bad ideas. I might get the Papal States back as well. This is the medieval equivalent to weapons of mass destruction. Basically just ally everyone in the hopes that it deters nations from even starting a coalition against you. There you go. We're basically allied to half of Europe now. Come at me, coalition. Come at me. And I just realized that Austria lost that war because they just released Tyrol. Also, some of these nations that would join in a coalition, like Mainz, like Trier, that have above 50 aggressive expansion, we can just quickly get an alliance with them, and then we can cancel the alliance afterwards. That way we have a truce, so they cannot join a coalition even if they had the intention of wanting to join a coalition. Finally, after many years, Charles decided to pass away, and we have 3 options with the Burgundian inheritance. We can remain Burgundian, which is not the option we want to go for. We can decide to become a PU of Austria and we integrate all of our subjects, or a PU of France and again we integrate all of our subjects. Of course, we're gonna go for the French PU. God is with Joseph indeed. There you go. Now, the thing is, we literally just fully annexed the entirety of France with that one little click. That is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my whole freaking life. I love that, man. I love that one event more than anything else. However, now we are a junior partner of France, so we're gonna have to declare our independence war. I am gonna wait until the truce is over in 3 years before I do declare that independence war. Otherwise, the coalition might just be a little bit bigger than it was before. That being said, we are insanely massive, and yes, the nation of Clan Ricard, our little march, did not get integrated. It only matters if the vassals or subjects are within the European, or better yet French, and Dutch areas, so keep that in mind. Now we can of course also do Unite the Realms as well, integration of Nevers, and we have a little bit more units than I expected to have, but it's not a big issue because we can just do this. We can make full states out of everything here. It will put us massively over our governing capacity, but not to worry, we can fix that in a few moments as well. Alright, everything is a full state now. Let's make sure we set up our armies and our navies. Of course, we want to give the plus 100 governing capacity privilege for all 3 of the estates. That way we're now up to 785 out of 700, so it's not so bad anymore, and we're going to get that 1 stability back. Also very important, lower the autonomy, because remember, all the provinces you've integrated will have pretty high autonomy. You want to make sure you lower the autonomy as much as possible. I'm also going to delete some of the fortifications around here. They're really useless, especially the ones in farmlands up in the north. Going to keep the one by the borders with the HRE, because that's going to be one of our main contenders as we progress in the campaign. All right, boys, the moment of truth is here. It's time to peace out. Zafranch. Boom shakalaka, no more France, and we have the entirety of France as well as the lowlands, and we are Burgundy, and we're amazing, and I'd love to continue this, guys. If we can get this all the way to 1821, we're of course going to be forming Lotharingia in the next port, and it's just going to get even more fun and more entertaining. So don't forget to leave that like. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next one.